everyone. Welcome back to Dancing Through the Decades on D News Network. I'm Olivia.
I'm Kaitlyn.
And I'm Destiny. It's the first episode of the new school year, and we are so excited to be talking all about dance again.
In the first episode of this school year, we're bringing you a history lesson all about tap, and it begins in the 1600s.
In the 1600s, slave ships brought West Africans and indentured Irish servants to the Caribbean to work in tobacco fields. There was a minimal exchange of music and dance traditions to keep them in good shape to work. Drumming was not allowed on the fields, where the owners were worried about the slaves planning an uprising.
In the 1700s, slave owners would actually pick their best dancer and put them in a jigging competition for bragging rights of who had the better dancer. These competitions accumulated in a fusion of different styles where dancers would copy, trade, and create movement to impress their audience. The winning dancers were rewarded with special treatment by their slave owners.
In the 1800s, jigging became the term used to describe the style of dancing that came from a fusion of upright torso, minimal hip motions, and intricate footwork. They had hip-centered movement, flat-footed, shuffling, and gliding. They maintained a relaxed upper body and lower body, which promoted jumping, air steps, and allowed for fast, complex foot and leg works, while as syncopated rhythms.
Wow, I never realized how much history is associated with tap dance. What other parts of history are associated with the origins of tap dance?
Well, minstrel shows included comedy, drama, dance, music, animal acts, and burlesque. Thomas Dartmouth Rice was the father of minstrelsy and developed the idea of blackface. This made it difficult for dancers of color to perform. Even dancers of color had to paint their faces black to be allowed to perform.
During these years, the 5-point neighborhoods in New York City became a melting pot for dance, creating a blend of many different styles that we now call American tap dance. Following the Civil War, the Jim Crow laws were written in the South, which legalized racial segregation, controlling where formerly enslaved people could work, live, and travel. This limited the performance opportunities, and the performers would have to fight to control the image they presented in performance.
Entertainment became more organized in the vaudeville years from the 1800s to the 1930s. It consisted of traveling circuses and burlesque. Vaudeville shows were more family-friendly than minstrel shows. In vaudeville, a show would typically include acrobats, magicians, animal acts, singers, dancers, and comedians. During these years, troupes formed within circuits, TOBA, or Theater Owners Booking Association booked African American acts across the South. This troupe was also known as Tough on Black Artists.
A vaudeville show typically had 10 acts, and they were performed in 2 times a day. For a tap act, it would include many different types of tap performances, like flash dance, eccentric dancing, class acts, buck and wing, soft and shoe, and song and dance. The Whitman sisters were the highest paid of the TOBA, and some vaudeville performance even went on becoming stars in film and Broadway. Now that we have a good grasp on the foundations of dance, I'm still curious on some of the influential people in tap. Is there anyone that comes to your mind when thinking about that?
Absolutely. I think about the Whitman sisters, who were a group of 4 tap dancing sisters. The oldest one, Mabel Whitman, was the leader of the group and helped direct their shows. Essie Whitman was a big voice comic singer. Alberta Whitman was the 3rd sister. At times she would also go by Bert. She was a flash dancer who worked in male drag for partnering with her sisters in the shows. The youngest sister, Alice Whitman, went on to be known as the greatest woman tap dancer of her day. The sisters actually performed with some of the best tap dancers, including Jenny Lee Gahn and Bill Robinson.
Wow, that's awesome, Kaitlyn. Can you think of anything else?
Totally. I think about Leonard Reed and Willie Bryant, who both helped create a popular dance sequence in the vaudeville years that is still taught to this day, the Shim Sham Shimmy. Leonard Reed was born in 1907. His mother was a person of color and his father was white. This allowed him to perform in both black and white vaudeville circuits. Leonard started going to the Hoofers Club, a place where performers would go after shows to improvise in a circle and get ideas from other dancers. Willie Bryant partnered with Leonard Reed from about 1926 to the early 1930s. They performed in many shows together, and their act was called Brains as Well as Feet. They created the Shim Sham as a finale to their show, and it consisted of 4 different established movements. These were the double shuffle, the push and cross, the tack Annie, and the fall off the log.
And I think I know one too, Bill Bojangles Robinson. He started dancing at 5 years old. He was a one of the first vaudeville performers to perform without blackface makeup, and one of the earliest performers to go solo. During vaudeville, there was a two-man rule which required that African Americans acts have two performers. No soloists were allowed, so Bojangles overcame so many racial barriers and helped inspire and pave the way for countless tappers for future years. And he was part of the first interracial tap dancing duo in films with Shirley Temple in 1935. Also, his birthday, May 25th, is now National Tap Dance Day, but that's not the only fun fact. Bojangles had a song written about him, and when someone heard the song, they named their restaurant after it. So now he has a restaurant named after him called Bojangles.
We also can't forget about the Bunny Briggs. He was born in Harlem in 1922 and actually started tap dancing after he saw Bojangles perform. Briggs was known for his quick footwork, varied repertoire, and striking stage presence. He never had formal dance lessons, but started tapping on the streets in his neighborhood. He also performed in children's dance group called Pork Chops, Navy, Rice and Beans. He later went on to perform with pianist Lucky Roberts in private homes and mansions. Bunny Briggs also performed in many Broadway shows and films, including The Ed Sullivan Show in the 1960s, and was featured in No Maps on My Taps in 1979, and the movie Tap in 1989. He passed away in 2014 at the age of 92.
Just like the history of tap, it's important to know what tap is like now in the current day. Savion Glover is one of the very influential tap dancers and choreographer. Savion was born on November 19, 1773, in Newark, New Jersey. At Newark Community School of the Arts, he began taking music classes at the young age of 4 years old. Quickly, he made his way to advanced level classes and became the youngest student in the school's history to receive a full scholarship. At 7 years old, he enrolled in tap dance classes and started performing opening numbers at festivals with such greats such as Jimmy Slide, Chuck Green, Honey Coles, and Buster Brown.
Throughout Glover's childhood, he performed in many shows on Broadway. Some of these shows include The Tap Dance Kid and Black and Blue. All of these experiences helped to shape Glover into the talented artist that he is today. At almost 51 years old, Glover is still making a living legend among the current day tap dancers.
Wow, tap is so enriched in history. It's amazing to think about how tap has evolved over time to become what it is today. It's important to recognize the origins of tap, where the foundations came from, and pay respect to its history.
I totally agree. Tap is so much fun to watch, and learning its history makes me appreciate it even more.
Thank you for tuning in for the first episode of the school year, and we'll see you next time on
Dancing Through the Decades.